Today is August 7th. We're in Fairlawn, New Jersey, and we are at the house of Edward Guy, a member of the 141st Regiment. And on camera is Kirk Uchida. On audio and catalog is Daryl Kunitomi. Interviewing is Robert Horsting. Ed, I'd like to thank you on behalf of the Go for Broke Educational Foundation for agreeing to do this interview with us.
You're welcome.
And would you please start by stating your full name and your date of birth?
Edward F. Guy, 12/1/23,
And where were you born?
Waltham, Massachusetts.
What can you tell us about your parents? When did your family first immigrate to the United States?
My father immigrated here in 1909, and my mother came with my oldest brother in 1910.
And what's your father's name?
Thomas.
Where did he come from?
He was born in Liverpool, raised in County Louth, Ireland.
And what was your father's reason for coming to the United States?
Work. There was no work over there.
What did he do in Liverpool area?
Well, he was a laborer, I guess.
Can we hold one moment? Can we cut? You gotta put your mic on, young man.
Okay. So, could you state again, what was your father's reason for coming to the United States?
Work. Try to get work. There
And
was no work over there.
what type of work did he find when he came to the United States?
What did he finally?
Yeah, what type of work did he do?
He worked on boilers. He became a stationary engineer.
And boilers is kind of an older technology now. Could you, for people that don't know what that is, could you talk to what do you know about that?
That's what makes the heat into the buildings. And he knew everything about boilers. And he ran big buildings in Waltham.
Okay.
And then the Depression came, and he lost his jobs. So we came back to New York.
Can you describe your father for us physically? What did he look like?
He was about 5'8" and about 165 pounds. Reddish hair and blue eyes.
Was he, what was his disposition? Was he a jovial guy or very serious?
Oh, he was a very jovial. He liked a good time, you know. Oh, very. How would you put it? He was very. Very easygoing.
And how about your mother?
My mother was very strict,
And
and he was easygoing. But they got along great. So.
now, did your mother come over with your father?
No.
Or did they meet later?
No, she came a year later.
And
They came to New York and had six children while in New York and 6 children in Massachusetts.
do you remember all your brothers and sisters' names?
No, because I know all their names.
Okay.
But there was 2 died before I was born. And then my other brother died when he was 6. And I was 10.
Could you give us the names of your brothers and sisters?
Yeah. Thomas, Harry, Joe, Helen, Johnny, Francis, Gerard, Eddie, Arthur, Bobby, and Alfred.
Okay. And then, how's that?
That's 12.
Well, we're getting close.
Huh?
Well, let's, where were you in the line of children? What number were you?
I was fourth from the end.
Okay.
3 younger than me.
And your mother, what was your mother's name?
Ann Byrne.
Ann Byrne. Okay. And what did she look like?
She was, there she is right there.
My eyes
On the
aren't
right.
what they should be, so. But can you describe her
Small,
for us?
about 5 foot. Black hair, blue eyes. Maybe 110 pounds.
Now, you said she's pretty strict.
Yes.
What was her disposition?
Oh, she was a good woman, but she ran the house.
No. Go ahead.
She was, yeah, when she said something, you had to listen, or else get it. Oh,
So I think you just answered my next question. On those rare occasions when you guys might get in trouble,
yeah,
who laid down the law?
she did. She laid down the law.
And
My father was easygoing. He
And-
said, "They don't do it," but my mother would do something about it. Oh,
when you did get in trouble, what kind of punishment was doled out?
you got wrapped around. You got hit a little bit. But she was right. You'd think twice of doing it again.
Do you remember an occasion that you got into some kind of trouble that you got wrapped around?
Oh yeah,
What happened?
I got hit with a shoe a few times, with her shoe.
What did you do to
I
deserve
wouldn't
that?
go to school. So she demanded that you either go to school or get a job. And that's what happens. Play hooky, you got to pay for it. You think twice then.
Who were you closest to of your brothers and sisters?
I was closest to Arthur and Bobby, the one that died.
Mm-hmm.
I was very close to him.
What was the age difference between you two?
4 years.
Okay.
And 2 years difference between me and Arthur.
What was the racial makeup of your neighborhood when you were a kid?
Irish American. With some, in New York, was Irish American, and on Broadway was Cubans. And Irish American mixed there. But Amsterdam Avenue was all Irish American. And Irish.
Now, we think of, in those days, maybe we think that, all Irish Americans would get along. Was there ever any problems between Irish Americans and the immigrants that would come over?
No, not too much, but there was always some action on Friday or Saturday night. But, had nothing to do with whether you're Irish or Italian or whatnot. Like, there was a couple of blocks where there was some Italian Americans, and they got along good with them, played ball against each other and with them and whatnot.
And when you said you played ball, what kind of ball?
Every football, basketball, baseball, stickball, softball. Always a game going on.
And where would you play? Was there a football field or a baseball field, or did you guys play in the street?
No, we played There was a park. We played football in the street, association, things like that, but there was a park on 134th, a small park there that everybody played in. Football and basketball, softball. Couldn't play baseball there. Wasn't big enough. Had to go 4 blocks up and play baseball there.
So at the time, you mentioned that you guys got along pretty well with the Italians who would play different sports against them.
Yeah. And the Cuban kids. Yeah, they had the Aztecs and baseball and the Rams and football were mostly all Cubans and Greeks. Mm-hmm. So,
what was that like for you? How old were you around that time?
13, 14, 15, 16.
What was that like for you to mix with these different groups and see these different cultures?
There was no difference. Everybody tried to get jobs, and with depression, everybody tried to get work, and everybody got along. Every once in a while they'd have a fight or something, but no knives or guns or nothing. Mm-hmm. Either one with your fist or you lost. So,
back in that time, you had, how many kids were actually, when all the children were born, how many kids actually lived in your house?
10. 9 boys and a girl.
And how many rooms were there?
5 rooms. It was crowded.
Yeah. What was dinner like at your house? What was dinner like at your house?
Oh, first come, best served. If you didn't come on time, you're lucky if you got something left.
Okay. I want to go back to your mother and dad. Can you describe a time that you and your dad shared a day or an event, something that you really cherish in your memory, something, that time you spent with your dad?
My father used to come whenever his sons played ball or something. You'd see him there. Always was there. But he didn't have it easy. He didn't work for a long time. And then when he worked, he had to go dishwashing and restaurants. Until things got better. Carried signs around 42nd Street. No. He didn't have it easy. Mm-hmm. But he tried.
What did he teach you?
Mostly to be honest and truthful. That was his whole thing. If you lie, then you're cheating. Because why do you have to lie? I mean lie and not saying, oh, you look good when you don't, but I mean really lying. That's what he taught me mostly. And my mother too.
When you got
and the love of the United States. That's what he was. He had seven children in the service, and he was proud. Oh, but he was a good man.
How did that make you feel to know that when you were playing these ball games, your dad would really come in?
Oh, I always look for him. Always. That's why I always try to go to my kids' games and my grandchildren's games. I figured if they felt the way I felt about my father, they would feel the same way. No.
How about your mother? Can you share with us a memory you have of time shared with your mother that you really cherish?
Oh, any time I went to visit her, I cherished that times. She always, when we go to see her and I'd bring some of the kids. She always had something there for them, you know. Every time I went to see her.
Do you remember a moment that you two shared or an activity that you two did when you were a child?
Not really. She always took care of the house until we got older, and then she went to work. But before that, she always was in the house, baking. Baked every day except Sunday.
What was the favorite thing of yours that she would bake?
Well, anything she baked, apple pie or bread, potato pancakes. Not potato cakes, but potato pancakes. That's what we all loved.
Yeah. Let's go into your school time. Where did you go to grade school?
Annunciation, grammar school. Then I went to a whole bunch of schools after that. I didn't go to school. I quit school.
Now, why is it that you went to so many schools after that?
Yeah, well, I went to LaSalle. I went to Manhattan Prep. I went to Rice. And I ended up going to Chelsea.
Now, is that
vocational. And that's when I quit in the 10th grade.
Now, did you go to all those schools because they all wanted you?
Yeah. To play ball. And my marks were good. So it wasn't that my marks weren't any good, but going into them schools, my marks were very good. But I didn't like school.
Now, was your family moving around, or?
Oh, no.
No.
Stayed in one neighborhood. Okay. When we moved from Massachusetts, we moved to Manhattanville. It's now part of Harlem, but it was Manhattanville then. And that's where we lived. So from 1928 to 1969.
Okay.
That's where my mother lived. And then she moved up into the Bronx. But, there was only my oldest brother and my mother and father. But then my father died during the war. And my mother and oldest brother stayed in the 134th until 1969.
How old was your father when he died?
60.
Okay. What did he die of?
Cancer.
Okay. When you're playing ball at school, I noticed a photograph over here of you with a lot of trophies. What was your best sport?
Which did I like the best?
Yeah.
Or which did I play the best?
Oh, let me ask both. Which did you like the best?
I liked football the best.
Okay.
I played basketball the best. The best of what I played.
What position did you like to play in football?
I played anywhere, usually. Mm-hmm. But I played center when I needed a center. Mm-hmm. It was just a neighborhood team, you know.
Okay.
We go out to the Queens and play the teams out there. Played center, linebacker, or I mostly played end.
Now, did your family go to church?
My family, oh yeah.
And what church did your family attend?
Catholic Church,
Yeah, which
Annunciation,
Okay.
on 31st Street and Combin Avenue.
Okay. Did you play? Did the church have any kind of league for sports?
CYO,
Okay.
Catholic Youth Organization.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you play football within that structure also with
Yeah.
the CYO?
Yeah.
And how about basketball?
Well, yeah, almost all the basketball, CYO. Then anybody was allowed to play. Now, kids that are on a varsity or junior varsity, they can't play CYO because it doesn't give the other kids a chance to play.
Mm-hmm.
But then anybody could play. You could be in college, playing in college and playing the CYO, which our neighborhood did.
What was your position in basketball?
God.
Were you pretty good?
Fair.
Now, you sound a little bit modest because there's a picture on the wall over here with quite a lot of trophies.
Yeah, well, that could be anybody, you know.
Who is it in reality?
Yeah. That's me in reality, but that could be any of the other kids that I play with.
Did you get a lot of individual awards, or were they all team championships?
No, all teams. It was all team championships. A couple of most valuable players in tournaments and stuff. But mostly all team.
What was the most important holiday that your family celebrated?
Christmas.
What was special about the way you'd celebrate Christmas in your family?
Oh. Everybody is, you see everybody that day. They all go to Mass and then come around and you see the whole family. Christmas and Thanksgiving. And that to me is everything, seeing the family.
Was there anything that your parents would try to make sure that was on the table that you wouldn't have other times of the year?
Yeah. Turkey on Thanksgiving. Christmas, almost everything. The other time with potluck.
What was your favorite food to eat in Thanksgiving or Christmas?
Turkey. I always liked turkey. Breast of turkey. Most of my kids and grandchildren, they like that meatballs and spaghetti. But I'm not a meatball and spaghetti man.
Okay. It's not quite the Irish dish, is it?
No.
How about, you said you quit school at 10th grade?
Yeah.
What did you do after that?
I worked in a grocery store, then worked down in Wall Street as a runner, and then I went, when the war started, I worked in a B&G factory, spark plugs. They made spark plugs.
Okay.
And from there, I went into the service.
What do you remember about where you were when you heard the news of the Pearl Harbor attack?
I was outside in the street with about 5 or 6 friends of mine when someone come up and said Pearl Harbor was bombed. And I said, "Where's Pearl Harbor?" I didn't know where Pearl Harbor was. Neither did the rest of them. And then the fellow that heard it on the radio said that's one of our naval stations. I said, oh, that's it. In the meantime, two of my brothers were already in the Army.
How long before were they in the Army?
One went away in 1940 for a year. You could sign up for a year and then get out. And the other one got drafted in April of 41. So the one that went in for the year went in October of 40 and got out in October of 41. And then when the war came, he went right back in. They called him back in. And then each one a different time.
What do you remember, especially for the fact that you're on the East Coast here, what do you remember about discussions with you and your friends or your parents talking about what was going on in Europe, the war taking place in Europe?
Oh, we didn't talk too much. My friends didn't talk too much about the war. I guess because it was overseas. Only after the bombing of Pearl Harbor would they talk about it.
Prior to that, did you ever think about Europe and the idea that maybe America would get involved somehow? Do you
Well, I thought myself that they were going to get involved because of the Lend-Lease and all. Sending the stuff to England and all. And the merchant ships were getting blown up. So eventually, I thought eventually that we would get in the war.
You just mentioned Lend-Lease. Could you describe what Lend-Lease was?
Well, they lent all this material and everything to England, and they called it Lend-Lease.
When you now, did you volunteer or
No,
did you get drafted?
I was drafted.
When did you go into the service?
February 13th, 1943.
And
I was 19.
And where were you inducted?
In New York. And then went to Fort Dix. And got shipped to basic training in Camp Croft, Spartansburg, South Carolina.
When did you finally, or how was South Carolina for you? The fact that being from up here and going into the South.
Well, you were in the camp all the time, training. And when you get a pass, you go into the town.
We were just talking about basic training, and can you say again the name of the camp where you took basic training and the city? Where did you go for basic training?
Camp Croft, South Carolina.
How did South Carolina, when you got your passes to go into Spartansburg?
Town. You go to a movie or a diner or something. Nothing special. You didn't get it often. Maybe the last 2 weeks of basic training, you get a pass. Or you couldn't go anywhere. You had to go into Spartansburg or stay in camp.
How were the people different in Spartansburg from your neighborhood?
Everything was slow. There, everything. Even in the diner, they were slow. Oh, In New York, everything is in a rush. That's about all the difference.
During that time, when you first went to basic training, how did you find it? Was it tough, or was it easier because you were an athlete?
No, it was hard. It was, some of it was easy, some of it was hard. The marching, the miles and all, that was nothing to me.
Mm-hmm.
But then they have certain trainings, certain things in jungle warfare and things like that was kind of hard. And of course the rifle at first was hard because I never knew what a gun was. That after a while, takes you a while to get used to it.
What was the toughest thing that you did in basic training?
The jungle warfare, crawling underneath the wires and stuff like that. That's the hardest. Going over walls and stuff was nothing for me. But when you go over the wall, then you start crawling. That was hard.
What was the most interesting thing you learned in basic?
Well, I guess the most interesting thing was learning about the machine gun. How to set it up so that when you took it apart, you could put it right back together again. That was, to me, the most interesting.
Mm-hmm. What kind of machine gun did you train on?
30 caliber, water cooled. Then when I went to the 36th, it was a 30 caliber air cooled, a light machine gun.
What's the difference?
Well, one is bigger and can fire further. But the water cooled is a heavy machine gun, and it's water cooled. The 30 caliber is a light machine gun, and it's air cooled.
Excuse me. Obviously forgot to turn that off. Can you just stop for a moment? My cell phone, luckily I didn't have it on ring, but my cell phone went off. Ready to go? Okay. You were just talking to us about an air-cooled versus a water-cooled gun. What was the difference in the firepower or the range?
Well, it was the heavy machine gun. It's further. You can fire further. It's set up so that fire, where the light machine gun, you go with the infantry. The heavy machine gun is sitting there firing for you on the target. But they don't go when the infantry, when the riflemen go. Whereas the light machine gun, you go with the riflemen.
How many men were assigned to the air-cooled, the lighter machine gun?
The lighter machine gun was usually 4 ammunition bearers, assistant machine gunner, a machine gunner, then the squad leader and the section sergeant. Oh.
And how about the heavy machine gun?
I imagine, I don't know, they were in different company, but I imagine it would be the same.
And the heavy machine gun, was that something that was carried, or was it on some?
Carried.
Carried.
2 men. One carrying the bipod, the other carrying the receiver. But the light machine gun, two men carried that too. But they can carry it like this, where The heavy machine gun, you gotta carry the tripod on your shoulder.
And when you, no, so there were, if I understand you correctly, with the light machine gun, there were two sections, the gun itself and the tripod. Is that correct?
Yeah, same as the heavy machine gun, only it was heavier, tougher to carry.
Yeah. So were you happy not to be assigned to that in the end?
I think I would have been. Well, I don't know how to put it. Yeah, heavy machine guns were a little bit back. So it was not that they didn't see a lot of action. They did, but they didn't see as much action as the riflemen.
When you got through with basic training, where did you go to?
I went to, they sent me to, Pennsylvania. What they call a staging area in Pennsylvania, Camp Shenango, Pennsylvania. Stayed there, got my equipment, and went to Camp Patrick Henry, port of embarkation. And from there, went to North Africa.
Now, when you went to Camp Shenango, were you assigned to the 141st at that point?
No.
Who were you assigned to at that
No
point?
one.
Okay. Oh, just
I was just going to be a replacement.
Okay.
Then I went to Camp Patrick Henry, a port of embarkation. And went to Casablanca in North Africa at a replacement depot.
So you actually didn't get assigned to any unit until you got to Africa?
Right.
Okay. What was that trip like for you to go overseas?
Oh, well, they had about 5,000 or 6,000 on I think it was the Brazilian that I went over on. And they had no place to sleep or nothing. And by the time you ate your breakfast, it was time for dinner. For the lines, they maybe 2,000 or 3,000 in regular time. They had 5,000 or 6,000 troops on there. So you slept wherever you could. No bumps, no nothing. And then you got to Casablanca, but it only took 5 days. Whereas if you went on a convoy, it took 8 or 9 days. This they went by themselves.
Now was this
Because they were faster. Because they're faster than the German ships, warships. So they went by themselves.
And was this a liner, a cruise liner?
Yeah. It wasn't then, though. It was a troop transport then.
Yeah. Do you remember the name of that ship?
I think it was the Brazilian. I think.
How did you fare? Did you get seasick, or how were most of
I
the
never
guys?
got seasick. A lot of people got seasick. A lot of people couldn't go in the line and eat. They'd be sick. Everybody throwing up. But I didn't get sick. I was fortunate.
Besides standing in lines, how did you pass the time?
Playing cards, mostly. You know, to get on the deck and circle and play cards, shoot dice, read.
What kind of things were you reading?
They had them Hillary Queen books, that they gave you. You know, when you're going over, they give you a package. And then it was, you know, shame and stuff. And the book, the Hillary Queen book.
How did you like mysteries?
I didn't like them, but I read them then. Nothing else to do. If you lost your money in the card game, you couldn't play anymore.
So were you better at cards, or did you get a lot of reading done?
I played all right cards. I could play then, but I did read too.
What were you playing in cards? What kind of games?
Mostly poker. Then if it wasn't money, you'd play pinochle. Hearts. You know, things like that, where there was no money involved. But the poker was the money, and the dice, of course.
When you finally got to Casablanca, what was that like for you to land in this very different culture?
We went right to the replacement depot. I didn't see nothing of Casablanca. Landed there, took in the truck to the depot, and from there they assigned everybody to different outfits that were in North Africa.
When you were in your training, or were any of the guys that you went to basic training with, did you develop friendships and travel with some of these guys overseas?
I traveled with them. Them two fellas that were from my neighborhood. I was with them right up until Casablanca.
What were their names?
Joe Cleary and Johnny Leyden. Leyden, Leyden. It's pronounced Leyden, he called it Leyden.
And
they were from my neighborhood. They went in the same day as me. I went through basic with me. Then got shipped. John went to the 34th. And Joe, I believe, got malaria either in North Africa or Sicily. I'm not sure. And Johnny lost his leg in Italy.
yeah, you said 34th Division?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it was the 135th or 133rd Infantry. I don't know.
And
Could have been on 68.
what happened to Joe?
He got malaria and came home.
Did he get malaria in Europe, or did he go to...
Got it in Europe. He got it, I think it was in Sicily, but I'm not sure.
Once you got assigned, who did you get assigned to?
A Company on 41st.
And what platoon were you in?
The weapons platoon. That's the 4th platoon.
Who was what was your rank at the time?
Private.
And who was your sergeant that you reported to?
Sergeant Henson. He was my platoon sergeant.
When you got assigned to the 4th platoon with the 141st, what did you hear about the reputation of these men?
Well, they didn't have no action in North Africa.
Okay.
They were getting ready for Solano. So all the training was done in Azul in North Africa to get ready for Solano.
And can you say the place in North Africa that you trained again?
Azu.
Azu?
Azu. A-R-C-E-W, I think it is. Azu.
Okay. And how long was the training there?
How long was the training? I got there in July, and we landed in, we made the invasion, Salino, on September the 9th.
What, this is your first action, going to Salerno.
Yeah.
What?
Was the whole division's first action.
What kind of things were you expecting? What in your own mind did you anticipate you were going to...
I guess, you know, when you go in, you're going to get shelled, mostly. That's what I figured. And maybe some mortars, you know, mortar shelling. Things that you've seen on the films, you know. But then, Italy surrendered the night before, so we thought we were going to walk in. Didn't happen. So,
How did...
so they only sent the one division in. Oh, and some Rangers.
So how reality differ from what you expected?
Well, everything. I mean, everything they opened up with. Once we got on the beach, they opened up with everything. Machine guns, mortars, and artillery, tanks, fire. And more or less, was right about, you know, the films, except for the machine guns involved. One of the films that we seen was mostly artillery and mortars and tank fire. But there was a lot of smallers on fire too. And they were so well fortified there. But the first wave, which I was in, didn't get hit hard at all. We got in pretty easy. But the second wave, especially E Company, got bombarded. So that was the first of the action.
Did it seem to you like they, by comparison, when you saw what happened to the subsequent waves, did it seem like they maybe let you come in just to pick you off at the beach?
I think it might have been both. I think it might have been a surprise where we landed, and part of it was they let us in, and then hit the other waves coming in. So that's one time the first wave was better off than the second and third.
Now, what were the weather conditions and the ocean conditions when you made your landing?
Well, that's the first and only time I got seasick was in the Higgins boat. They circle you around for hours and hours to get the waves ready. So you're in the first wave, and you keep going around and around, and that's the only time I ever got seasick, was in that Higgins boat. But if you ever notice, you come down off the ships into the Higgins boat, and they keep circling, and circling forever. You want to get in. You're so sick.
When you finally hit the... what time of day was this that you...
I think we ended up being 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, I think it was. I'm not sure, but I think that's about the time. Breaking daylight.
that door opened up?
You wanted to get out. And you're up here in the water. And you're carrying I was carrying four cans of ammunition, 2 on the shoulders and 2 in the air, with the rest of the equipment. But it was only just to get it on the beach. I was an ammunition carrier then. Oh, you carried as much as you could in there to get on the beach.
Think back at. I know it's pretty difficult, and there's a lot of chaos and anticipation about getting onto the beach. What kind of things were going through your mind?
Just to get on that beach, get out of the water on the beach. That's the whole thing. To get onto that beach.
At the point that you guys landed, where were the fortifications, the German fortifications? Were there cliffs there? Was it?
It was like hills. And they were all there and looking down at you. And if you found ditches and all, that's where you got into. We didn't move for at least one day. Tried to and couldn't. There was tanks sitting there. We ended up in the ditch. And then set up the machine guns there. And there was riflemen there and all, so.
What are you thinking of that brought a smile to your face?
I'm just thinking of all them guys, that's all. Wasn't easy. But
what was the biggest shock to you about what you anticipated would happen and what really happened?
The tanks. The tanks. I think there was a Panzer division there. And that's the shock. They're sitting there and they're firing at you. You fire at them. You can't do nothing to them unless you got a bazooka or anti-tank guns, and there was none there. They weren't in there yet.
Did they not bring them up because they didn't anticipate tanks, or why did they not supply bazookas?
They thought they weren't going to have a hard time there. From what I understand later, they thought it was going to be a walk-in because Italy had surrendered the night before.
And the troops that you actually fought against there, were they Italian or German?
German, all German. Whatever Italian you seen, they gave up. In fact, later on in Italy, they had Italians fighting the Germans. Oh. But they had a tough time at Salerno. I guess the 82nd Airborne jumped at Arthur Villa. And I guess if it wasn't for them, 143rd would have gotten wiped out.
When the 82nd Airborne jumped, did they come in behind the German defense?
Right, behind the town of Arthur Villa. This is all you learn later, But I knew the 82nd came the second day, because I seen them. And later on in the campaign, they were at a couple of mountains we were on. And then they went back to Europe. Back to England, from Normandy. Get ready for Normandy. But the 82nd, they made a couple of jumps there. They made one in Sicily and one in Italy.
How long How long was it between the time that the third wave, between your landing and the third wave, actually managed to make it in?
Well, half hour. Just about a half hour.
Okay.
Because they were all cycling, waiting, one to go in, then the other comes in. I would say about a half hour. It seemed like longer than that, but probably was a half hour.
And what do you remember about how many, were those all the men they were trying to get in, or were they trying to get more in?
What do you?
You know, there were 3 waves that made it to the beach.
Well,
Were they trying to get more men in, or did they?
just trying to get more men in. Yeah, well, you have to have, can't go in with one wave.
Yeah.
You gotta keep going.
But do you recall if they were trying to get more than just the 3 waves in? Were there other waves that were supposed to
Oh,
follow?
sure. There's a lot more waves. Well, that's the first 3 waves would be the infantry, and the other waves would be the artillery, the tanks, and whatnot.
Okay.
Mortar companies.
Okay. How long did it take once the 82nd Airborne helped change the direction of the defenses up there? How long did it take you guys to break through?
The next day. Yeah. But then, in the meantime, the 45th came in. The second day, I believe it was. Originally, I think they were supposed to go with us, and they were one of the divisions that was supposed to make the invasion, and they called them off. But then they came in the next day, the 45th.
How long did it take to break through to Salerno?
Pardon me.
How long did it take to break through to Salerno?
For the breakthrough.
Yeah, that battle. How long did that take?
About 2 days. If I can remember, I can be wrong. But to my recollection, it was about 2 days when we broke through.
Okay. We're talking about Salerno, and what kind of losses did you guys sustain there?
Maybe a quarter of the company. About a quarter of the company, I would say. I don't know how much in the battalion, but the 2nd Battalion they might have lost half.
After Salerno, where did you? Oh, actually, let me ask you this: when you guys made the attack on Salerno, were you the first Americans to actually set foot on Europe?
Yeah, we were the first. Either us or the Rangers. There was Rangers were at Salerno too. But we were the first division to set foot on European soil.
After Salerno, where did you go?
But I don't know how that is, because isn't Sicily part of Europe?
I think they make the distinction because you guys went to the mainland.
The mainland, okay. We're the first mainland Europe. Okay.
When after Salerno, where did you go?
Went up through Naples to the Battalion River. Then stopped there. Got replacements. And then moved up into the mountains of 1205, and which was the biggest mountain there, by San Pietro there, the casino area. And we were there for a good while until we tried to cross the Rapido River. Then we got wiped out at the Rapido.
What actually occurred there at the Rapido? What made that so difficult?
Well, what I think was the river itself is a small river. It's not wide, but it was deep, 9 foot deep, and it was going like anything. And when we got the boats there, they couldn't use them, the rubber boats. They just went flying. I was fortunate. I got hit there. But the rest of them that got across, they either got killed or captured. And some of them, a few of them got back. When I got back from the hospital, I knew maybe 10 people there. That was, let's see, 1, 2. I think there was 3 people from my platoon was left. I don't know how many in the other platoons, because the only ones I knew in the other platoons were sergeants and 1 or 2 other guys. But we got completely wiped out.
And how many men are in a platoon?
In a platoon, I think there's 40, 48. There's 200 in the 200 in the company, and there's four platoons. So I think our platoon had 42 or something like that, but the other platoons had close to 50. And then when you're making a major attack, they try to bring in 20% more, like an invasion or a river crossing or a big major attack, like at Anzio. They bring in more troops, 20% more. They tried. They had the replacement.
How did you sustain your wound?
Pardon me?
How did you get wounded?
I got wounded by a mortar shell in the thigh. And then I got to the first aid station, and they shipped me to a field hospital where I got operated on. And from there, I went to a hospital in Naples, outside Naples, up on I think it was the 17th General or something. And that's where I met some of these fellas from the 100 Infantry. I never even knew there was a 442. I knew there was 100 Infantry because their reputation was so great. They were attached to the 34th Division in Italy. And then when we went to southern France, they were attached to us.
But
I didn't even know it was a 442. But the reputation of the 100 was extraordinary.
What did you hear about them?
They were great soldiers, they were. All the time, no matter where, whether in Italy or in France. Then I think they went back to Italy again. Did they? Yeah. I mean, that's what I heard. But I knew how well they were received in Italy. And then in France, when they were with us, they always did a great job.
They went back to Italy to break through the Gothic line.
Yeah.
You talked about meeting somebody from the 100th when you were at the hospital. Do you remember?
Yeah, well, I met a lot of them, but this fellow was right next to me, and he was telling me he was from California, and his brother. And I always thought, if you're in the 100 Infantry, you had to be from Hawaii. That's what I was told. The seven companies, and they were all from Hawaii, and the replacements were from Hawaii. And then they couldn't get no replacements. None left in Hawaii, I guess. they had so many casualties that they made them. That's when they made the 442. That's what I was told. I don't. This is what they told me. But Freddie, I was with Freddie for about a month.
Can you state his full name?
Freddie Sawada. Don't ask me how to spell it. Just how he pronounced it. It sounds Japanese, right?
That's right. You got the pronunciation right. What do you remember about him?
Oh, he's such a nice, happy-go-lucky guy. And when I asked that fella about Freddie, he says, "Yeah, I know him. He just got wounded for the 4th time." I said, "Oh, that would be him." I don't know if he was just telling me that or what,
What did you guys talk about while you were sharing bed or the room there?
When we were in the hospital.
Yeah.
He was telling me that his brother was a swimmer. Swam for University, I think, of Washington. And he always was talking about his brother. And I think then he went in the service too. But he didn't say anything about camps or anything. I don't know if he was in camps or what, but he was from California. Mm-hmm. In fact, I didn't even know there was camps until after the war. That's a disgrace. How can they take these people and put them in them camps? And the Italians and the Germans, they didn't do anything to them. That's what I can't see. And then when you meet these fellas, I mean, they're true Americans. Oh, that's what I didn't care about. If they refused to do something, or then you should be able to do something with them, but not just to take them, their businesses and all. That's a terrible thing. Terrible. But they proved they were Americans more than anyone else. Oh.
When you got out of the hospital, well, actually, there's something I want to ask you. You're talking about replacements coming in. How long after Salerno did those replacements come?
About 3 months. About 3 months after Salerno.
What would you say the bond was like between the men that you landed with and fought your way up through this area before?
They become like brothers. They become just like brothers there. Some are so close that it's unbelievable. Others you don't really know. But the ones that are with you, they're like brothers there. You can't get any closer. And that's maybe why you work a little harder. So they don't get hurt either.
When you lose friends like that are so close that they feel like family, and suddenly they're either wounded and off the line or they're killed, what was the difference between the way you reacted to these replacements? Did you get close with them, or were you?
No, you get close to some of them too. You get close to the ones that are in your squad. The replacements or the guys that were with you, everybody is close. and they share their wine with you and whatnot, you know. I didn't drink it, but most of them drank the wine, you know, and they'd get a container of wine. Hey, want some? They're very close.
When you're moving through the countryside, before you got up to the Rapido River area, what contact did you have with the local Italians?
Very little. Even if you went into a town, you kept moving. Then the other people, that what they call the rear echelon, they come up and they'd be in the town. They were in contact with them. Every once in a while, you'd run into a farmer or something like that. If he had anything, he'd offer it to you. But that's in the towns. When you take a town, you got to keep moving. Then the other people come up and live in that town until you take the next one. Then they. But the French and some of them towns were very nice, good, give you anything. They had wine and stuff. They'd come out with it. But up in the north, they weren't so nice.
The north of France?
Yeah.
How
In
was
the
that
Paris area, no, not so nice, them people. But them people in these small towns were all for you. All. It's strange, but true.
What did you think the difference was in the attitude?
I don't know. They seem to be contented in them big towns. In the little towns, they were all like farming areas, whatnot. They all belong to the FFI and all that, Free French. But in the north, I mean, I didn't see much in the north except when I went to Paris on leave. They weren't my type of people.
Can you talk? You just mentioned the FFI. Can you talk about that a little bit? Who were they?
They were just normal people. Hard-working mostly. What I seen were farmers that became guides, they were fighters if they had to. But mostly what I seen of them were guides. They'd show you where they were and where they weren't.
When you say where they were and where they weren't, who
The
were
Germans.
Okay.
Oh, they'd take you where it was safer. And you know what you were going to run into. But Marty knows all about that. I was just an enlisted man, you know. The officers knew all, knew about that.
When you were at the, I'm not sure if you were there at that point, but something kind of amazing happened over at the Rapido River.
Rapido.
Yeah, the Rapido River. That there was such devastation there, and yet there was a truce.
There was a truce.
Can you talk about that?
I was in the hospital then, but there was a truce for 2 days to pick up the dead and wounded. And the ones that weren't wounded were captured, and they let them come in and pick up the dead. And the Germans picked up their dead, which was just as many, maybe more.
How long after, or how long was your hospital stay?
2 months. And then when I went back, they were getting ready for Anzio. To go up to Anzio, on the breakthrough at Anzio. So they got all the replacements. And some of us that come back from the hospital and train there to go up to Anzio. And the breakthrough in Anzio.
How long did you train to prepare for Anzio?
Well, I was there maybe 2 weeks when I got back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how long. I don't know how long what was left of the company was back there then, but they must have been back 2 weeks before that. So they must have been there about a month, and then went up to Anzio.
When you joined the troops, were you still a private?
I was a sergeant then. When I got back, they made me a sergeant. I was a private when I got hit, and I was a sergeant when I got back.
So you did better offline than online, huh?
Pardon me?
I said you did better off the line than online.
On the line, right.
That's a pretty good promotion. What added responsibility?
Well, there was nobody there. Process of elimination.
What added responsibility did you have?
Well, I had to make sure the ones that were under me were made holes and whatnot. Made sure sometimes you couldn't dig the rocks in the mountains and all, so you had to make sure that they covered themselves and all before they'd make an attack or stop an attack. You got more to do than you gotta watch for somebody else besides yourself. When you're a private, you watch yourself. And of course the guy with you, but then when you're a sergeant, you gotta watch them all. Make sure they do the right thing. And that comes with experience, that's all.
How many men were you watching over?
You mean at the end?
When you got back and you first took over
About 8 men. About 8.
Mm-hmm.
That's a buck sergeant.
Okay.
Then there's a section sergeant, which that's what I was when we went to southern France. That's 2 sections that you take care of. I mean, two squads, which becomes a section.
Okay. When you actually made your attack on Anzio, how was that different? What was the terrain like there?
It ended up being easier than the others because there was enough troops, and when you made a breakthrough, the rest of them come. When some of these other places, you make a breakthrough, and no one's in back of you. So if you get surrounded, you're in trouble. They tell you to take something, and then they don't bring your troops up to protect you. That's what happened to us twice. At the Horse Battalion, and then with the company on the next objective. We took the objective and got captured because nobody come up in back of us. I mean, that's what I feel. I don't know what they think, but we had no ammunition. Nobody had any ammunition left. We were there for 2 days. And it was what's left of the company was 72 guys. Oh.
I'm going to get back to your capture, but I want to stick with Anzio for a moment.
Go ahead.
The resistance, what kind of resistance did you come up against in Anzio?
At one town, Belly Empty or something like that, was a strong. But that's after the breakthrough. That was the most important town leading to Rome. And when we broke through there, we went right to Rome. That's how the 36th, I think, C Company got into Rome first. But from what they say, we weren't supposed to keep going. We were supposed to come back and around on Highway 6 or something to stop the Germans from retreating. But Clark wanted to get into Rome first. Well, that was easy.
Do you remember seeing the 100th on your road to Rome?
No, I don't remember. I know they were there. Almost everybody was there then. They might have been down on the breakthrough at San Pietro. I think that's where the 34th was. And they're the ones that broke through there, them in the 88. They finally brought another division in. But
do you recall ever seeing the soldiers, the German soldiers that you were fighting against?
oh, sure. Plenty of times. We captured thousands of them. Oh, sure, a lot of them.
What were the ages of the troops that you're up against?
Same as us. Mostly young kids. 20, 21 years old.
How, at that time, they were still a pretty substantial force. What those troops seem? Were they really well prepared? Were they hardened soldiers at that
They
time?
were both well prepared. The fortifications were so great. I mean, you're going up a mountain and they're looking down right at you, and they're all covered. And that's why it was so tough in Italy. The fortifications were unbelievable, besides the troops they had there.
What kind of things, you're talking about fortifications, what kind of things would you see that were unusual, that just seemed pretty ingenious to you?
Nothing was ingenious. It was just how they fortified everything. Their machine gun nest and whatnot were all fortified. And they'd shoot out, and you can't shoot in. They'd only have slits there, and they'd be firing out of that.
When you're saying that they're fortified, can you describe what you mean?
Well, either by stone or what would you steel things that they used to have 2020s there. What would they call them? Oh God, tough when you get old.
Are you talking about the enclosure now?
Yeah,
the pillboxes.
Pillboxes. They'd have the pillboxes there and everything. And besides, the machine guns nest were all fortified with bricks and all. And they have slits. And you have to get into them. Oh.
How about their weaponry? How is theirs different from yours?
Well, I don't think their weapons were. I think maybe our M1 rifle was better than theirs. Their rifle. Their rifles were more like a O3s, which you could hit anything with an O3. And M1 was a rapid fire rifle. An O3 was a bolt action, but the sight and the accuracy was unbelievable, and that's what theirs was. But they had these small machine guns that fired. They fire all over, but not too much accuracy. But our Thompson submachine gun, if you go into a house and you spray it, that's what it was good for. It wasn't good to hit something 100 yards away. But it was good for automatic rifle and, a submachine gun. And you spray with it. And they had these small machine guns that were like that.
Do you remember the nickname for that?
No.
Is it a burp gun?
Burp gun. That's right. Burp gun.
Do you remember why they called it that?
Because it burped. I imagine.
Do you remember the sound, the difference in the sound? Was it a faster...
Oh, it was faster, sure. Oh, of course. That's like they had a mortar that circled around like this. Screaming Mimi, they called it. And that had a completely different sound than anything. And it would shoot off. I don't know what it was, 88 or the mortar, but they had an 88 artillery piece that could hit anything.
What did that sound like?
Just, you only hear it right at the end. Like a mortar. People say that you can't hear it, but if it's close, you can hear it go. But the artillery you can hear anywhere. And you knew when it was fired. You could hear them firing. But, so I'm sure they could hear ours too. Our artillery.
You were just talking about armaments, and we started talking about the 88s. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? What were they?
The 88th Division?
No, the gun.
Oh, that was an artillery piece. Great accuracy, they claim. They big enough, they'd use them for anti-aircraft, for artillery, for tank, anything they use them for. And our tanks, I think, had a 75 on it. Wasn't strong enough for them big tanks they had. But the 88 could knock out our tanks. Oh, that was really a great artillery piece. So they claim.
When they were firing that directly on the men, how did they move that thing? Was it...
I don't know.
Okay. Did you ever see one?
Huh?
Did you ever get to see one up
Oh,
close?
yeah, I've seen a couple of them. But they look something like, after a while, we had a 90 that looked and acted probably the same way, but was used as an artillery piece. They used the 88 for anything.
When they would fire that 88 at your men in a battle situation, did they shoot it like an artillery piece, or did they aim straight?
Oh, no, they shoot it up. They were far back, miles back, and shoot it. Same way as our artillery.
I mean, the 88 gun?
Yeah, they'd shoot it as artillery. Mm-hmm. If a tank came along or something, I guess they'd lower it and fire it, and then they'd go up higher. If it was at planes, no.
Okay,
That's what they tell me anyway. That's where it was used. I know it was used as artillery because that's what they used to fire on us. Mortars and 88, and then that screaming Mimi after a while.
What was the purpose of the screaming Mimi?
Because it covered more ground. It would circle around and shoot off from there, and it covered more ground.
Oh, so it didn't just make sound, it actually was an explosive?
Oh, yeah. That's what I got hit with. But that's what they all had around the Rapido River, too. Screaming Mimis.
When, after Rome, How did you actually stay in Rome, or did
Oh,
you guys
no.
move through?
Went up 240 kilometers. And all as we ran into there was roadblocks. Just the whole stalling, trying to stall us to get to the main army. So at 240 kilometers, we stopped. I don't know who took over. Some new division came up and took over where we were. And we went back to Paestum, where we landed at Salerno, and got ready to go to got ready to go to southern France.
Okay. When you said you came up against roadblocks, were there just some type of barricades there, or they had
Yeah, they
troops there?
usually had big trees across the roads so that you couldn't go fast. And then they had snipers and whatnot protecting them. Maybe not an archer, but an anti-tank gun, things like that, that would stall you for a few hours. Then they'd take off, and then you go so many miles, and they'd have another. That's mostly what it was beyond Rome. So it didn't take long to go them to 140 miles, and then they pulled us back. I think they pulled the 36th and 45th across the 100, and that's who made the invasion, southern France.
When we hear so much about the Alamo Regiment, can you tell us a little bit of the what you know of the 141st and the Alamo Regiment?
That is the 141st is the Alamo.
Yeah. Can you talk to us a little bit about that history? How they got that name?
They got the name from in San Antonio. That's where they're from. And mostly all my sergeants, when I joined 141st, were all from San Antonio. And that's where they mobilized. And it's from the Alamo. That's where it's from. The Battle of the Alamo. So that's where the insignia was. Oh, they were always so proud of that. You know.
How did you guys, all these guys from the Eastern Seaboard, meeting all these Texans, did you guys get along? Were there problems?
I got along great. I love the guys from Texas. They bragged a lot, but so does New York. But I got along great with them. They said to me I wasn't from New York. And I said, of course I'm from New York. He says, so this one kid, I won't mention his name, started talking from Brooklyn. He said, see, he's from New York. They didn't appreciate New York at first until they got to know you. But me, they didn't know I was from New York originally. But they said, you're not from New York. I said, yeah. Because everybody, not one kid in my squad was from New York. Oh yeah, one was from Mount Vernon, Vaccarella. And another kid was from Cleveland, and the rest were from Texas. The sergeants, the gunner, the assistant gunner. But us four ammunition carriers from different parts of the country. We got along great.
What's the best tall tale you heard from a Texan?
Let's hold on one second. Let's hold on 1 second before we get into this tale.
Okay.
They took so many days to build the Empire State Building. They said in Texas it would have been built that day. You know, things like that. And about their cows and their chili con carne. They love chili con carne. Good people, though. Good Americans.
So, did you talk about foods that you guys
The
had on
food?
the? Did you guys talk about foods from New York that were better than chili?
Oh, sure. There was one cook. Every time he cooked, we had chili con carne. And they loved it. And I say, is that all he knows? He's a cook. And that's all he knows, because I hated it. That's all he knows how to cook. They says, well, you can have the cheese. They got big pieces of cheese on a food line. I'd say, that's all. Their chili. Oh, I love their chili. They still do, I think. Huh? And everybody said, what's chili con carne? I said, it's rice, kidney beans, and pork, and hamburger. That's all it is, I said. But they put some other herbs in there or something. Make it hot.
When let's see, where am I at here? Excuse me. Oh, the staging area. When you went to southern France, how long were you stationed there before moving up?
Oh, we just moved right up.
Oh, okay.
We took, the first couple of days, we took thousands of prisoners.
Where did you actually start from in France, in southern France?
It was below Marseille. What's the town? I forget. Well, I don't even know if there was a town there when we went in further. It was near Nice and, what's the other on the Riviera? Canes and Lords. But we tried to stop I think it was the 19th Army or the 10th Army from retreating. And we ran into hell there on the Rhone Valley. That's where, right after that, Higgins took over the company. The company commander, then the other one that was the company man, they got killed there. My best friend got killed there.
What was his name?
Tommy Sudoff. He was the motor section sergeant. He was always up in front, directing the motors. So when counterattack came on the hill, because they had to take that ground to get through the Rhone Valley, he got killed there. And that's where I got wounded again. Oh, that's where I got the Silver Star. So when that was over, I thought all I had was a chipped bone there, but it looked like it was. So I was only in the hospital one day. Went from the aid station to the field hospital. And that next morning I seen a 36 ambulance. And I went over and I said, I'm going back. So they wrapped me up and I went back. And when I got back, I found out the company was in bad shape. A couple of kids on the machine gun. Well, they were killed before I went there. I got one of the kids down to the aid station. After we stopped the attack they were coming up the side and we stopped the attack there. So then all of a sudden, we got no officers. We got no platoon sergeant. I became a platoon sergeant and a platoon leader. Oh, I thought I was a tech sergeant all that time. And then I found out after I got out that I got promoted after the Lost Battalion. October 28th, I got my tech sergeant stripe. In the meantime, he wanted me to go become a lieutenant. And I said, no, I want to go home. I was supposed to go home. I want to go home. But he said I volunteered.
Oh, who's he?
Higgins. He said that but I didn't volunteer. He asked me, he said, we got no officers. Would you stay till we get an officer? And you go on the next bunch in January. And you can go home in January. I guess he don't remember that. But, so I said, well, okay. Oh, then I got word my father died. And he sent me back to the kitchen. And he says, you stay there until you're ready to go home. Because they were going to try to work out some way that I get home for my father's funeral. The first sergeant goes somewhere. He says, you got to come back to the company and act in first sergeant. I said, okay. That was December 4th. So then we had an objective at Siegelsheim, and we started. And we took over Siegelsheim December 9th. And December 10th we were captured. We got surrounded and ran out of ammunition. And I guess there was no 100 to break through to us. But so after it's over, he don't talk. Higgins mad at B and C company for not coming up. And the company from B company said, we sent somebody there. There was nobody there. So don't tell me there was nobody there. We were fighting for 2 days there. You know what happened? They went to the wrong town. He finds out from Colonel Byrd at one of the reunions that they went to us. He mentioned the town. He said, no, Siegelsheim. He said, they didn't go to Siegel. They went to... And he said, no, there was nobody in that town. So it wasn't their fault. Whoever sent them to the wrong town. But they should have known. They should have known already.
Can you say that again?
Higgins. Every objective that we ever had, he took. And then some of the times he get in trouble with the people surrounding. They give him an objective. He'd take it. Right? And then there's the reinforcement. Don't make sense. He's a great soldier.
Let's talk about him a little bit. When did you first meet Marty Higgins?
I met Marty Higgins first when we came back from Italy. They put us outside Rome so that we would get 3 days passes into Rome and then go down to get ready for the southern France. I believe that's when he joined the company as a second lieutenant. And that's the first time I met him.
What'd you think of him when you first met him?
When I first met him, I said, this guy is great. But he was in a different platoon. I think he was in the 3rd, or one of them. 1, 2, or 3, but I think it was the 3rd.
How did he impress you? What about him?
He impressed me so much that I think he was the best soldier I ever seen. He was the fairest, the bravest, and wouldn't do anything that he wouldn't do himself. Some of these officers, they'd tell you, go and do something, and they wouldn't even be there. Some of them would, but he was always there. Even when he was company commander, and company commanders don't do that. He was right there. Maybe he shouldn't have been, but he was.
When you first met him, you said you knew right off he seemed to be
right
the straight
away.
guy. What about
Just a
him?
regular guy that demanded discipline, but was regular. But you can't. He's a little guy. You'd think he was like some of them guys in the 100. Little guys, but tough. You know.
When he talked to us about the movement in the Rhone area when the Lost Battalion episode happened. Let's talk about that.
Well, we had a hill to take, the 1st Battalion, and we went in about 6 miles and took this hill. All of a sudden, there's nobody coming. So we're surrounded.
When you say there's no one coming...
There's no reinforcement. No one in back of us. They give you an objective to take. He takes he didn't take it. It ended up him running it because he was the only one that knew what they was doing. With the officers, not that it was their fault. They were new, and they just got into it. So he took over the company, the battalion, and he laid out all the machine guns, and in between the riflemen. The mortars couldn't fire because of the trees and all, so they became riflemen, and any time they counterattacked it, they got hell. And we had enough ammunition at the time, and then they started sending it in by plane. So we were all right, and a little bit of food. First few days, we had nothing. We were ordering, had to go to a hole. But we had them pills that you put in the water to purify it. Mm-hmm. So if you find a mud hole, you take the water and you put it in. Put the pills in the canteens. So that was all right. We had the water and a little bit of food. We always carried enough for 2 days. But then on the 3rd day, there wasn't much left. So everybody put it all in together so that somebody would get something. And then they started shooting artillery shells in there, and it didn't work.
The artillery shells they're shooting in, what were they for?
Food. Blanks with food in them. You just had to watch that that it didn't hit you, but they didn't. The artillery can fire on an area, but they can't pinpoint like a mortar. So they started shooting them, and then they decided to shoot planes and take planes and drop parachutes down. And that's when we started getting the food there. So, and that's when they broke. A couple of days later, they broke through. But we didn't know it was them coming. But I spotted the American uniform. I seen the one guy first, and then a few other guys in back of him. He must have been the scout, I imagine. And I run down the hill, hollering, screaming, and him waving back. And my two of my machine gunners coming with me, back of me.
What were their names?
Stevens and Mason.
What was that like for you when you first saw these guys?
I would have hugged and kissed them if it was a girl. It was everybody was so happy with them.
Do you remember the name of the scouts?
No, Jeff or something.
Oh.
Mud.
Yeah.
Mud.
Yeah. Mat Sakumoto. Mat Sakumoto.
Is that his real name, Mud? Well, that's a nickname.
It's a nickname.
Mud. Mud is a dog.
He,
hard-working dog, Martin. Right?
Yeah.
That's got to be a nickname. That
Yeah,
can't be
yeah,
a real
it is.
name.
It is. What do you remember him saying to you?
He said, "You need any cigarettes?" That's exactly what he said to me. First thing. I guess he knew we had no cigarettes. And in the Army, everybody smokes because of the tension and the leisure time you have. So I don't know anybody that didn't smoke. Oh yeah, one guy. One guy in my platoon didn't smoke. And when he got cigarettes, he got mobbed. So he knew that cigarettes.
Did you guys get a chance to talk at all, or what happened?
No. They had to keep going. They had no time to rest. That's what's so amazing about them. They just kept going. Others would stop and rest and whatnot. They just had to keep going to get to us. Because our 3rd Battalion was a great infantry battalion. Well, the 3 of them were, but the 3rd did a lot. And they couldn't break through. They had a hell of a lot of casualties. And that's who I thought, what we thought was still coming. One of the battalions, one of the regiments of the 36th. It's a good thing they were attached to us. It's not good for them. They got a lot of guys killed. And every time I think of them and all them, you know, I think of the Rapido and all the kids from my outfit got killed. And you think, God, they had more killed than what we had. And so they had to do a magnificent job. Had to. Like I say, 143rd tried to break through, and they didn't get through. Got through a little bit, then got repulsed.
How long was it before you guys realized that you were cut off?
One day. One day. Because he sent the patrol down. Back and they didn't come back.
How many men
5
were
of them
sent?
come back. Huh?
How many men were sent out on that patrol?
They said 35. I thought it was 50.
Yeah.
But they said 30. They're probably right. Because he knows who he sent.
Marty told me about 55 in the Lost Battalion book. They state 53.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
But I thought it was 50.
Yeah.
So it's in around there. But then I was reading one day about the breakthrough, and they said 35. And only 5 come back. 1 from my company, Cunningham. I knew he was. I knew about 7 or 8 from my company went on that patrol. And 1 from my platoon. The rest were all riflemen.
The supplies that they tried to get to you, what happened to the supplies that didn't quite reach you?
Well, they would go off on other places. 1 or 2 would come in with D-bars.
What were D-bars?
They're chocolates for the energy. That's a meal, a D-bar. So you take them, try to make coffee or something out of them, or split them up and eat them. It's hard to eat, boy. It's like a brick. You ever see them? It's a D-bar. It's all chocolate. It's just like a brick. Trying to break it. You gotta scrape it like with a knife with the bayonet. And we got some of them in there.
And go ahead.
No.
I said, and the rest of the supplies that didn't make to you went to the Germans?
Apparently they either went to the Germans or nobody. I don't think the Germans took a chance in coming up and for depots. I mean for food. I'm sure said they got some of them, but most of them I think were wasted there. But when they dropped the parachutes, we went out and got them. And had a couple of skirmishes there, but we got the food from the parachutes, or most of it. That was a good idea. But there's nothing in the dictionary that I could say about the 100. Nothing.
I want to go back to Siegelsheim and the action. Can you describe the action, what had occurred there?
Well, there was a hill there going into Siegelsheim. And we took that hill first and then went into the town of Siegelsheim. Part of D Company, that was attached to us, stayed on the hill to protect that hill. And when we were going into the town, he stopped our machine gunners and told them that they had orders to stay on the hill too, for firepower. So that leaves us with just riflemen and mortars into the town of Siegelsheim. Whatever happened, I don't know, but the Germans ended up on that hill overlooking Siegelsheim and attacked us. But in the meantime, in Siegelsheim, we seen them coming up, the Germans coming up. And he told them to hold the fire until he gives the order. And somebody opened up and left us. Now they know we're in the town. And they take the hill, or whatever. I didn't hear no machine guns going off. And they take the hill, and they got us surrounded. Someone was, B Company or C Company, was supposed to reinforce us. And we would have, all we needed was some ammunition and a couple of tanks. We could have held them off. They only came in with 2 tanks, but they come up close and out of the buildings where we were firing. They were heading us there. That's where Lieutenant Higgins got wounded. And nobody had any ammunition left. So he says, try to get out the best way you can. There's no way of getting out. So he said, don't let them take me.
Who said this?
Higgins. I said, what are you, crazy? Got nothing? We got nothing here. This is the way he was. He's wounded and he doesn't want to get captured either. Neither than anyone else. But had no choice. So they took us. Captured. The captain said that he spoke English, and he said, we thought there was a regiment in there. So we sent the division. And we're going to treat you right, because all the ones that you captured from our army down in southern France was treated right. So when they came to take the watches, the men, he stopped them. He says, you don't touch them. And that's what happened.
Now, you and Marty Higgins were separated because of your ranks.
Yeah.
Where did you go and where did you
I
go?
went, I don't know what the name of the camp was, where I first went for 5 days. And they took all the sergeants and put them in, we went in trains, and we went to Furstenberg on the Oder River. That was in eastern Germany. That's where the Russians were fighting. And he went to another camp where all the officers were. When the Russians were breaking through, they marched us 90 miles, 150 kilometers in 3 days to 3A, Camp 3A in Luckenwald. And about 5 days before the war ended, all these officers come in the camp. And there was Marty. But there was a big fence separating us, the officers and our non-coms. And I talked to him over the fence and everything. And the day that we got liberated, they come in with the same food the Germans gave us. And I said, we got to get out of here. So I met Marty the next day. And I said, we're leaving. The 4 guys from my platoon and another kid from another platoon, Healy. I said, we're leaving. Want to come with us? And he said, no, I'll wait. I said, because we're going. So we took off. Got to the Elbe River. German there with a boat. A kid that I hung out with, Johnny Bohmhausen, spoke fluent German. Got in the boat and went across to the American lines. That's how I got home. The Russians wouldn't let us cross the Wittenberg Bridge. They wanted to take us back to Russia and then go home from there to Odessa. Oh, and there was still some pockets of resistance, in the woods there. So we went, that's when we went through and got home on the boat. So, but Marty, then I met Marty after the war. He came to my wedding with a couple other guys that I was with. One from Brooklyn, Johnny Bohmhausen, and Tom Healy was from Jersey, Harrison, and Marty. They were at my wedding. So, well, from then on, sometimes it was years, but I went to see him in Union, New Jersey, where he lived, and he wasn't there anymore. He was living up in Demorest. So I went up to Demorest. And then for years, I didn't see him. I'm tending bar, and then he walks. Little guy. And he said something. I said, why? You think I wouldn't remember you? He was manager of a card company. I don't know, bicycle and cards, and so ever since then he moved to Columbia, South Carolina. Now he's in Florida.
When he came and saw you at the bar, did he know you were there or just happened to come in?
He heard. Wherever he was, our bar was on 136th in Amsterdam, and it moved to 215th, CCNY College took over all the property. So we moved to 215th. And when he went, I guess, to the neighborhood on 36, someone told him we were up in 215th. And that's when he walked in. I forget what he said. But he said something. I said, you think I wouldn't remember yet?
When you knew you were coming home from the war, what was the first thing you look forward to eating?
God. Well, they fed us good at Camp Lucky Strike. And if you wanted eggnog, you could get it 24 hours a day. But they gave you steak, everything. But that's what I was looking forward to, steak and potatoes. The potatoes, they never made the potatoes right in the Army. They're dehydrated potatoes. Garbage. But went to Camp Shank, had a big steak and potatoes. Real potatoes.
How long were you in the Army after you got back stateside before you got discharged?
3 months.
When
And I was
that?
mostly on leave.
Okay.
Leave, and the Army sent me to Lake Plaza.
Where's that?
That's when I got married. Up in Lake Plaza.
Where's that?
New York, upstate New York. A resort. I got married because the Army was going to pay for it. So instead of getting married in September, got married in August. So I was still in the Army when I got married.
So who's this person that you married? What's her name?
Ronnie Coogan.
How did you meet her?
Well, I went with her before I went away in the Army. She was from my neighborhood. How long did I go? About a year. I mean, I knew her for 5, 6 years, but I went with her for about a year before I went in the service.
Do you remember when you first met her? How it was that you first met her?
No, it was just, God, there's my stomach. She hung out with a bunch of girls. I hung out with a bunch of guys. And started going with her. When I was playing basketball, she would go to the games. And a fella that I grew up with went with her best friend. So they would go, and we would go to the basketball. Then after the basketball, have a couple of beers, and that's how I started going with him.
What about her attracted you? What did you really like about her?
Oh, everything. She was good looking. She was nice. Nothing wise about her. Everything was truthful. Everything. You can see she was a good-looking girl.
What kind of things did you enjoy doing together? What activities?
We went to the movies and had a few beers together, and Friday night go to the ball games that I was playing in. She played with a girls' team, the Rockettes. She was interested in bad sports, so what the heck is wrong?
What kind of movies did you guys like to go see?
I like the action movies. She liked the love story ones. I like, Errol Flynn and John Wayne, and she liked Van Johnson and them.
What did you think? Did you ever see the Go for Broke movie?
Oh, sure.
So what did you think seeing Van Johnson in there?
I don't like Van Johnson, but he played well there. But I don't care for Van Johnson. I don't like his acting.
Did you go dancing at all?
Yeah, we went dancing, but I never danced.
Okay.
She would dance with her girlfriend, and we would sit there. The fellas would sit there and have a few beers. A lot of fun. A lot of good, clean fun.
Good. How many children do you have?
6.
Can you name them for us?
Oh, sure. Margaret's the oldest. Veronica is Sissy. She's second oldest. Bobby is third oldest. Eddie is fourth oldest. Susie is fifth oldest. And Johnny is sixth. And I have 17 grandchildren. And 1 dead, 18 would be. And out of 4 marriages. Margaret and Susie aren't married. They live with me. Or I live with them, whatever. That's more than likely. They used to live with me. Now I live with them.
That's as it should be.
Yeah.
Do you have great-grandchildren? Great-grandchildren?
2. 2 great-grandchildren. Tommy's, who's in Germany now. And Eddie's sister, Julie. She's in Elmwood Park. Used to be East Patterson, and that's why I have a tendency to call it that. But it's Elmwood Park.
What's the most popular first name in your family?
Eddie?
How many Eddies are there in your family?
5. Each boy had an Eddie. The 2 last ones is Edward Francis, same as mine. My son is Edward Thomas. Thomas from my oldest brother. And Eddie's is Patrick, I think, ain't it? Edward Patrick. Edward Patrick. And almost every single game that they played in, I was there. Great athletes. I mean, extremely good. The kid that's in the Marines, he might have been the best. He was a great wrestler and football player, and had a scholarship. Went 1 year when he hated school. So he came. Who am I to say anything about school?
What do you hope that that you learned from your parents that you passed on to your children and grandchildren?
I hope to be honest and to be fair to people. That's the 2 things. Because my father used to say, if you're not honest, you're a cheat. Because when you tell them lies, you cheated something.
We were talking about your family and what things you really wanted to pass on to them that you hope that they got that your parents taught you.
To be, like I said, don't be lying. Don't lie. Make sure you give everybody a chance. Be fair to people. That's about what my mother and father taught me. And that's what I hope got into my kids and their kids. Because there's no reason to lie. Unless, like I say, telling someone they look good when they don't. You know, that's not a lie, really. I mean, saying things about somebody that isn't true. That's I hope they get through. I hope that I learned that from my mother and father, and I try to do it. I'm sure I didn't do it all the time, but I tried to do it, and that's all I want them to do. Try and to be fair to people. Because that's what I thought I always was, and I know my mother and father were like that. Oh, there's nothing else. And of course, I like to see them play ball, where they can't get in too much trouble. You hang around, something's going to happen. But if you work or play ball, you got no time to go shooting off.
You had seven of you were in the military. Of your brothers?
Right.
7 of you were in the military.
Right.
Where were the others serving? Where were the other brothers serving?
6 of us were in World War II. My youngest brother was a paratrooper in Korea. Tommy was in the Armored, 7th Armored Division. My brother Red was in the 1st Armored Division. Roddy was in the Engineers. Johnny was in the Navy Seabees. Artie was in the Navy on a Merchant Marine ship. They called it, not the fleet, in the Navy. Well, anyway, he was a gunner on a Merchant Marine ship. And Allie was in Korea, paratrooper. My other brother that was alive at the time was a fireman and had 2 children. They wouldn't take him. Joe, my second oldest, Joe.
I want to backtrack a little bit and ask you a couple of questions. One was when you were cut off in the Lost Battalion episode.
Yeah.
What was the sense of desperation there? What did you guys think was really going to happen to you?
You know, to tell you the truth, I didn't think anything was going to happen because we were dug in, we were covered, and dug in, and we had all the firepower that you wanted. There's no tanks could get up there. So, infantry wasn't going to get us out. And I knew, sooner or later, that I thought one of the regiments from the 36th was going to break through. Never dreaming that it would be the 100th. But we weren't worried in that position.
Yeah, and that was.
If you start to see a few tanks, or and then there was all forest, and if any artillery coming, never with holes most of the holes were covered with trees, branches of trees on the top. The longer you stayed, the deeper and the heavier the fortifications became stronger.
When you're talking about these fortifications and covering and staying under branches and covered with dirt, what kind of things were you protecting yourself from? By
airburst. The trees' branches were for the airburst. If the airburst came off of the other trees and come down.
Can you describe that? What is an airburst?
An airburst is a shell that in the air explodes and spreads the shrapnel. And sometimes the regular artillery shells hits trees, and the shrapnel goes all over like an airburst. You see, when the hack goes up and it explodes, well, this is the same thing. Explodes and it goes all over, and if the hole is open, it can hit you. If it's not open, it can't hit you.
What was the additional danger besides just shrapnel when an artillery shell would actually hit those trees? What besides just shrapnel? What was the danger of
a tree coming down? Very little.
How about the splintering and all?
Oh yeah, the branches and all come off, but the tree doesn't. I never seen a tree fall from an artillery shell. Seen big branches.
Do you ever see men get pelted with the splinters from those trees?
No. No. I know of people that got hit with shrapnel from falling ack.
Mm-hmm.
But by that time, it's not too bad. It's not really dangerous, but it's a wound.
Yeah. What was the sense of the men of your regiment and your platoon in particular about Dahlquist's leadership, General Dahlquist?
General Dahlquist. I don't know what to think of him. I mean, I'm too down low to really think of him. But he must have been a good general. Had to be. They blamed General Walker on the Rapido River, and it ends up it wasn't him. It was Wilson or Alexander that was in charge of that corps that sent us across. Walker didn't want us to go there. He wanted us to go down further and across. In the Lost Battalion.
Yeah.
It was raining all the time, and misty, and cold. Not extremely cold, but cold and misty and rain. Yeah.
What's trench foot?
What is trench foot? Trench foot is when your feet get wet and get cold, and they become numb. And it's like frozen foot, only it isn't. And that's what it's like. You can't touch it.
Does the skin rot, or does it?
Yeah, it expands. My two big toes expanded, and you couldn't touch it. The pain, so that when you slept in the hospital, they put a thing on each side of the bed and put the cover on it so that nothing touches the toes. But I had it slightly. Some guys never got over it. Mine, I think 3 days, and I was back out again.
We're going to change the tone here for our last comment. Is there anything you'd like to say to your kids and grandchildren? Just,
that I love them. I love them very much. And I hope and pray that everything works out good for them. But their grandmother loves their grandchildren and children. And I love them very much, and I've been blessed with a good family. Maybe other people don't think it is, but I know it is.
Well, on behalf of the Go for Broke Educational Foundation and the Hanashi Oral History Program, I thank you very much.
No thanks to me, thanks to them. Great, great crew. And then whenever you meet them, they're gentlemen. As tough as they were, they're gentlemen. Oh.
I've only got one last question for you. How do I look?
You look good.
Thank you very much.
And thank you.